It has been just over a month since the Trump administration's immigration crackdown focused in on Chicago. Since then, videos of residents' interactions with ICE agents are flooding the internet and painting a picture of escalating tensions there and in newly targeted Portland, Oregon. This video that we want to show you was from a local news producer apparently tackled to the ground by agents. Another appearing to show a U.S. citizen pulled from her vehicle and arrested for assaulting a federal agent. Bystanders say that agents struck her car. DHS has said that she was the one that struck their vehicle. Now a Chicago pastor is suing the Trump administration after he says he was shot in the head with pepper balls while praying at a protest outside an ICE facility. Joining us now, Seth Stoughton is a law professor at the University of South Carolina. He's the faculty director of the school's Excellence in Policing and Public Safety program and has spent years training police officers, including the use of force. So, Seth, we just played a few of those videos of what's been happening in Chicago and other cities. In that last one, we saw a pastor seemingly shot in the head with pepper balls by agents standing on a roof above him. What is standing out to you when you look at these images?
Yeah, good morning. One of the biggest things that stands out is the discrepancy between both the tactics and the use of force that we see from ICE agents and the tactics and use of force that we have worked with state and local police for decades on, at least since the 1970s. It's not clear to me whether the ICE agents don't have the training that they need to approach some of these situations in a professionally appropriate way or simply aren't bothering to. But there's a massive discrepancy in the way that I would expect a professional police force to approach some of these operations and what we see from ICE.
So from what you're seeing, are these operations seeming to be more violent, or are we just getting more video of them?
That's a good question, and it's not clear. I don't know exactly what the answer to that one is. What's certainly clear is when we see these videos, we aren't seeing what we should expect to see from a professional police force. And that's problematic, not just because it reduces public trust and perceptions of legitimacy, and because it exposes community members to more unsafe police operations. It also really puts the officers themselves, the ICE agents, in a bad position. When the agency allows or encourages officers to use bad tactics, the end result is reducing officer safety in ways that simply are not professionally justified.
It's sort of like an escalation ladder there. You've testified as an expert witness at several high-profile police trials, including against the officers convicted of killing George Floyd and Daunte Wright. If police officers were using the tactics that we're seeing from ICE, what would happen to them? What kind of charges could they face?
I would expect at a minimum there to be some administrative discipline or oversight. That is, the officers who are using some egregiously bad tactics in the way that they're conducting traffic stops or doing vehicle extractions, pulling people out of cars, or putting themselves and other officers in harm's way in ways that simply are not justified under the situation. There's also the potential for criminal charges if officers are creating situations that lead to a use of force, and they're doing so recklessly or intentionally. That can be a predicate for state criminal charges. Now, federal officials have some immunity to state criminal charges, so they don't have to worry about that as much. And the bar for federal criminal charges is both very high and, frankly, unlikely with this administration being the one engaged in these operations. But with state and local police, I would expect there to be a significantly higher threat of both civil and criminal liability.
So speaking of the administration, the Trump administration claims these operations are necessary to get control of what they see as rampant crime in the streets. But federal data is telling a different story. Last month, 70% of those in ICE custody had no criminal record. In one raid, federal agents used Black Hawk helicopters to descend on a Chicago apartment complex. We've heard a lot of talk about that. It was apparently said to be frequented by Tren de Aragua members, but just 8 of the 37 people arrested in that raid were found to have criminal records, and DHS said only one was, quote, a verified gang member. If the vast majority of these targets are not dangerous criminals, how can it be justified? How can these tactics be justified as reasonable use of force?
Yeah, that's a great question. The issue with a use of force is that it has to be justified. There has to be a legal predicate for it. And there is some legal authority for immigration authorities to take individuals, undocumented individuals, into custody. The question, I think, is less about whether it's legally justified, though, and more about whether this is a good and efficient use of resources. One of the lessons we've learned in state and local policing over the last 60 years or so is that targeted enforcement is far more effective at reducing crime and addressing social problems than a broad dragnet, get everyone you possibly can approach.
We think about, in our litigious society, we constantly are thinking about the legal implications, but those are very good points that you raise. Seth Stoughton, thank you so much for talking to us. We hope to have you back soon.